Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Burstner Aviano. Sorry about all the noise. So, it's an Aviano i684. And I will start us off under the bonnet. It's a 2009 vehicle based on the Fiat Ducato chassis. So, on the right hand side, we've got your positive terminal for the engine battery under there, under that cap. And your earthing point is normally around here somewhere, wherever it might be. Any of these here will work as decent earths. The factory fitted one has obviously been moved as it was converted. But that's that, so that's your engine battery jump starting point. Bit awkward to see, but we've got your washer fluid bottle there, power steering fluid at the back, and your engine coolant just here at the front. It needs topping up. The brake fluid reservoirs at the back there. Engine oil filling point is just down there, and your engine oil dipstick is the red top one just there in front of it. To release the bonnet, inside this door just here, you can see just inside there at the top, the bonnet release handle. Nice and easy to get to. If we carry on this near side, fuel filling point is this one just here. That's your diesel filling point there. You've got twin leisure batteries down here. So you got two of the larger sized leisure batteries. They should be about 110 amp hour, I would have thought. Freshwater inlet point. It's this one just here. So you can push that in and round to the right, and that'll get it to its sort of locking position. You'll then be able to put your key in, which will be this Burstner key here. Key in and turn it whichever way it'll go. Take the key out, and then that is locked. Alright. The next one along is your hookup point. So having the hookup cable in means that you can use any sort of 240 volt appliances. The battery charger will be on straight away so that you can, keep the leisure batteries topped right up. You've got the external water point, so you've got hot and cold water from that point just there. So that's what that is. This lower locker down here hasn't really got much to show you inside of it really, apart from on the other side, but absolutely loads of storage there that goes all the way through. And just next door to that, we've got your wastewater drain off point. The handle to actually drain it off is just there to the right of it. And like I say, that's your wastewater drain off point. Toilet cassette locker is this one just here at the back. It's the newer style grey toilet cassette. Still a Thetford unit, so it's nice and standard, but really easy to use. So lift up on the little green tab at the bottom will allow you to release the actual cassette and pull it out. Once you've got it pulled out, all you need to know really is that you twist it out from here and drain it from this little cap here. When you're actually physically draining it out, you should be holding this little green button here at the back, which is like a little air pressure release valve. So that's when you're actually draining it out. And the only other thing you need to know really is that you've got this little rubber seal just here, which is the actual seal that meets between the cassette and the toilet inside. And so every once in a while you should be spraying that up with a little bit of silicone lubricant, which is really helpful to keep it lubricated and stop any leaks between there and the toilet. If you've got yourself a can of silicone lubricant, it's also a good idea to go around any of these rubber seals around the lockers as well, because that, once again, that'll do the same thing. It will stop any leaks, so it'll stop water getting in from outside into the lockers. So that's what that is. Bike rack at the back there, all in one piece, and your reversing camera up the top there as well. Inside this rear locker, again, like I said, absolutely tons of storage, but the thing I actually want to show you is just inside here. So when you come to pick the vehicle up, you'll notice this little cover will be on this. It just stops any drafts and things like that, makes it a little bit neater. But in the locker itself, you've got this little yellow tab. The only reason they have left this open basically is to allow you access to these drain offs. So the little yellow tab there is basically just a pipe drainer. So if you want to actually release all the water from inside the vehicle, you need to lift that upright so it's sort of facing vertical rather than flat. And once you do that, any water in the pipes will drain out onto the floor. You've also got this blue one, if it can focus, on the left-hand side, and that is your boiler drain off point. So if you wanted to drain all the water out, you need to twist that little blue dial at the top, and all the water will drain out from underneath. When you want to fill the boiler back up again with water, you'll notice that when you try to turn it back around, there'll be a little blue button just on the back, just here. I don't know if you can see. Just on the back just here is a little blue button. So when you want to close this off again so that you can fill the boiler back up, push the blue button in and then twist it back to where it is now. But that, like I said, is your boiler drain off. So that is what that is there, and that's why this little cover is in here. That's what it's covering up, basically. So next door to that, we've got your external gas point. So if you wanted a barbecue being plugged into your main gas system, you can do so just from there. And the reason they put them just here is because it's underneath the awning, so you can have a couple of chairs underneath here and your barbecue sort of going like that. So that's why they put the external barbecue points there. This vent just here that says Truma on it, this is your boiler vent. You'll notice condensation will form underneath just there. That's completely normal. On a slightly colder day, it will, it will just start dripping down as well. It will just drip onto here. You haven't got to worry about that. That's absolutely normal. It just means that the boiler's working as it should do. So that's your boiler vent. And then we've got these two vents just here. So this one down here that says Dometic, and the bigger one at the top. The reason you got the bigger one is because you've got the integrated cooker and oven, oven and grill at the top of it as well. So that's why you get the bigger style there. But this is the fridge vent. And the last locker is your gas locker. So in the locker at the moment, you've got a 12 kilo propane bottle. So a really nice sized bottle. You can fit two of these in here if you want to. Just tighten those up. Easier with two hands. Right, there you go. So to turn these bottles on, you go anti-clockwise around to the left, so that switches it on, and clockwise around to the right turns it off. You got a auto change over here, so you could have two bottles fitted next door to each other, and then have it basically just so that it will switch between the two as and when it, when you want it on. If there's green showing on this little dial up here, that means that there is gas going into the vehicle. If it's showing red, it means that there's not. So that is about everything for the outside. So I'll just jump inside now and show you the sort of more important things really. So as soon as you get in, you'll notice you've got all of this sort of stuff just here. This is kind of like your control panel area, and it allows you to control anything you want to in the vehicle. So this is the standard factory fitted Burstner control panel. Pretty much all of them have this same style thing. So really simple to use, and generally speaking the Burstners are very simple to use anyway. So you've got a main on and off switch on the right hand side just here, and you can see there's a little green light showing in there telling me that the 12 volt is switched on and it's working, and that we've got power. The next one is turning the pump switch off. So if I press down on this, now all the sort of power to the pump is completely switched off. But on the same sort of I don't know what to say, the same idea as the pump, if that's how you want to say it. When you turn the pump switch on up there, you do also need to come down here and turn this little red switch on. So you can see there that there's two little wires coming off the back of that switch, and that basically goes up to the pump. So you need to turn that red switch on in order to use the pump as well. So like I say, if you want to use the pump, press up on this switch and the red switch, and then you'll be able to come over to the tap here and get your pressurized water. The pumps in these Burstners and most German vehicles are a submersible water pump, and that means the pump is that thing there, and it actually physically sits inside the water. A lot of other motorhomes, other brands will use an inline pump, which basically means that the pump sits kind of just along there somewhere, or near to the tank, and it basically just draws the water through via pressure. Whereas the submersible pumps work purely on 12 volt power, and will only run if the tap is lifted. Good thing about that is that you don't get so much pressure building up around the vehicle, which normally means less leaks. You know, less sort of, yeah, less pressure in general just means less leaks basically. So that's what that means. So the next ones, you've got internal temperature 13, external temperature. That's completely wrong, obviously, but to be completely honest, these aren't very reliable. The internal one is probably about right, but the external one is obviously not right. So that's what that is. You've got the clock, you can just set the timer on the clock there. Next one's along, you've got the freshwater level. So if I press up on this little dial here, I will look at the bottom scale where it says tank, and then that'll tell me how much water we've got in the fresh tank. So let's do that. So we've got half a tank of fresh water, and if we look in the top of the tank, you can see that that is about right. We can do the same for the wastewater tank. So if I push down on this little dial here, it's not moving at all, so that means that the waste tank is empty. The next one is your battery voltage levels. So if I press up on this one and look at the top scale, that'll tell us the leisure battery voltage. So we've got about 12.25 volts in there, which is absolutely perfect. Bearing in mind I've got every light in the vehicle on. Over 12 volts with power running through it is really, really good. And if we press down, we can see the engine battery voltage. So 12.5 volts in the engine battery. Again, absolutely perfect. It does show you on the scale there, but basically as soon as you start getting down towards 10 volts, that's when your battery needs charging up. If you had the hookup cable plugged in, you would have this little light here showing up. I think it comes up yellow. And also when you have the hookup cable plugged in, when you press and hold on this leisure battery voltage, it will be up here towards 14. So that's what that is. The one on the right over here that says Strom, that's basically the amount of amps or the amount of power that's being drawn from the leisure battery at any time. So at the moment, absolutely nothing really. Just literally all the LED lights and things. If I sort of ran the pump, well, even that doesn't really move it, to be honest. It's quite a low powered pump. But yeah, so that's just the amount of power. When I turn this 12 volt off, this bar will go straight up back into the middle there on 0. But there you go. So that is the control panel. Down here, as soon as you walk in, you've got various light switches, which are these silver ones here. The step going in and out is this one here, and your tank heater switch is that one there. So if you wanted to use any of those things, that's what they do. Also on this sort of board here, you've got this thing up here, which is your thermostat for the boiler. So you'll notice if you look closely, it does say Truma on it. Probably twist that around if you want to. So that's your thermostat for the boiler. So basically whatever you set the boiler to do, and whatever temperature you set it to get to, that's where it will sort of draw the temperature from. So if if you've got the door wide open, it will probably sense that it's colder than it actually is in the rest of the vehicle via the boiler, because the thermostat's just there. So the boiler controls, in fact, before I get into that, I will just say you've got an aerial point just here, 12 volt socket and 2 main sockets here. So that's why they fitted this telly here. It just kind of makes sense to have it plugged in there. You can have it plugged in wherever you want to. You can run, you can run a TV from wherever. Just means that you've got to run some wires. But when Burstner sort of made this vehicle, they thought, right, that's where you should have a telly, basically. So that's why it's there. Anyway, so if you want to use the boiler, before you start getting into any of that sort of stuff, when you want to actually light the boiler up, you need to do one thing first, which is turn the pump on and the red switch, like I said. Come over to the sink and basically just turn the tap to the left-hand side, so turn it to the hot side, and just pull the water through. So straight away, that is telling me the boiler is absolutely full of water. Now I'm about happy with it now, so I'll turn it off. So the reason you have to do that is the only way to actually check that the boiler's full of water is to make sure that the water comes through on the hot side of the tap. The reason for that is, if I just explain it. So the fresh tank is just here, obviously. And if I turn the pump on and pull the cold water side of the tap, what happens is the pump draws the water from the tank directly to the tap and then into the sink. All right, that's all that happens. Whereas with the hot side of the tap, no matter what tap you're using, the hot side draws water through the pump from the tank over to the boiler first and then back to the tap. So that's a way of just checking that the boiler is actually full. If you do get water coming through the hot side of the tap, it means that the boiler must be full, because it's actually it has to fill the boiler up before it will get to the tap. So I hope that makes sense. But that's what you have to do to make sure that the boiler is full. And the reason that you have to make sure the boiler is full is because if you drain the boiler out, like I showed you on the outside there, if you drained it out and there was no water in it at all, and I turned it on to light up to get to 40 degrees of hot water, or 60 or whatever, what you're essentially doing is getting a kettle, switching it on with no water in it. So it will just overheat. So it's really important to make sure that the boiler is full before you start using it, and that is the only way of doing it. You can't get the boiler and shake it around and make sure there's water in it. You just can't do it. So that's how you do that. Once you have done that, you can leave it alone and just rest assured that everything's fine. So the boiler itself is a combi, so it's a Truma combi. It's not a combi in the sort of sense that you might have at home. It doesn't give you instant hot water or anything like that. But it's called a combi because you can use it on hot water or heating. So it does both. So you've got two dials here. The one on the right that says Combi E is basically just telling the boiler what energy you want it to use. So I remember it as Combi Energy. I'm pretty sure it stands for something else, but that's the way I like to sort of describe it. So where it is at the moment, you can see there a little gas flame symbol. So at the moment, whatever I tell the boiler to do on this left-hand one, it's going to do it via the gas only. All right. If I go up 1 or up 2, I'll just turn this off for a sec. If I go up 1 or up 2, we're telling the boiler to use only electric, and that's when the electric hookup is plugged in. All right. So this one is about sort of 4 amps, and this one's generally about sort of 7 or 8 amps. Okay, so whatever I tell the boiler to do, once I've done that, once I've selected my energy here, whatever I tell it to do at the moment, it's going to be doing it on electric only. If I was in a real hurry for whatever I wanted the boiler to do, and I did have the gas on and I did have the electric hookup plugged in, I can go 1 or 2 down, and that is electric and gas at the same time. Okay, so at the moment, the only way that I can actually physically use the boiler is via the gas, because I haven't got a hookup cable plugged in, but I do have the gas switched on. All right, so for me at the moment, I'm going to have to leave this one here on the gas. All right, so I've selected my energy now. I can then go to the left-hand dial here, and I can actually tell the boiler what I want it to do. So if I want the boiler to, for like a day like today, it's not cold in this vehicle, it's actually quite warm in here. So I don't want the heating on whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 1 to 40 degrees, and that is hot water only. Okay, so that's hot water at 40, that's hot water at 60, and that's hot water only, so no heating whatsoever. So on the older vehicles, so the vehicles are about sort of like 30, 40 years old, these old sort of Truma, there's another brand as well, I can't remember what it's called, but they, instead of having all these bits here, they literally just had summer setting at the top, winter setting at the bottom, which is why it's still laid out like this. So the summer setting would be hot water only with no heating, and the winter setting would be heating or heating on hot water. So, it does make sense to have it like that, because you're either going to want it, heating or not want the heating, but you're always going to want hot water really. Anyway, so like I said, the up 1 or up 2 is hot water only at either 40 or 60 degrees. When you go back to the middle, that turns the boiler completely off. This little green light here will flash for a little minute just to cool itself down. If you go down 1, we've got heating only. All right, so the gas flame symbol on the left-hand side means heating. So, like I said, when we go down 1, we've got heating only. If we go down 2, we've got heating and hot water at 60 degrees. You can turn this little dial in the middle, 1 to 5, to sort of set the fan speed and stuff like that. Just basically, if you're in a real hurry, go all the way up. If you're not, turn it down a little bit. But pretty quickly, you can start to hear the air pumping out from these little circular vents. So any of those little circle vents, there's one down there, there'll be one over there, look. Any of those are now pumping out nice warm air. All right, but I'm also getting 60 degrees of hot water. Okay, so that's how that works. Hopefully that makes sense. Sometimes these combi systems can be a little bit awkward to explain, but I hope that makes sense to you. So I'm going to turn this off now. Back to the middle. And there you go. So energy selector, telling the boiler what to do. Gas, electric, both. Hot water only, heating only, both. So there you go. Right, so the next thing I'm going to show you is the fridge. So like I said to you outside, the fridge is a stack style fridge. So you've got the bigger style fridge at the bottom there, look. So this is the biggest fridge they make. And you've got the Dometic oven slash grill. So the nice thing about having these Dometic oven slash grills on the top is they're actually integrated to the control panel of the fridge. So to actually use the grill, I'm going to use this one on the right hand side, push in and round to the right to light the grill up. Make sure it lights all the way around to the back. A good tip for making sure it's lit at the back is look into the back there and you can see it on the reflection. So that's how I light the grill up. In and round to the left, we'll light the oven up. You can just about see it at the back there, look. Let's take that out of the way. So that's how you do that. So that's the oven and grill. The fridge, slightly different. If I just open this up. Nice reflective fridge so you can see me. Right, so you've got 4 different ways that you can use this fridge. Only 3 of these are actually sort of the functionality of the fridge, if you like. So the one at the bottom there that says auto basically just selects one of these 3 for you automatically. So it's not actually another way of cooling the fridge down, but it just selects one of those 3. So at the moment, you can see there, I've got the fridge lit up on gas, and that's what this little symbol here means. So all I had to do, so now the flame's gone out, all I actually had to do to get that to light up is just turn it around once to the right. You can hear very briefly the igniter comes on, lights up, turns off. Okay, so that's it working perfectly. If I had the electric hookup plugged in, I personally would have it down here on the electric hookup symbol. It's showing me red at the moment because the hookup isn't actually plugged in. If the electric hookup was plugged in, you'd have a nice green light in there and it would basically just be cooling down via the electric element. If I had pre-cooled the fridge either via the electric or the gas, and I want to start the engine up and drive off, all you need to do is switch this down to 12 volt here. Again, showing me red because the engine isn't running. If we start the engine up, it would show green. And that basically just keeps the engine cool, keeps the fridge cool, sorry, whilst the engine's running and you're driving. If I wanted to leave it on automatic and do the sort of lazy way of doing it, you can go down one and it will go through these and select whichever one it thinks you need. So it should try electric hookup, realise there's no electric hookup plugged in, and then realise that you have to use the gas. So let's do that. There you go, straight away. So when you go down to auto, it shows you that the automatic mode is on, and it also shows you which one it's chosen. So that is about it. You can, like I said, you can leave it on auto if you want to, but I personally think it's not difficult just to come up here and just switch between the 3. You know, it's pretty straightforward stuff. So back up to the top turns it off. The only other thing you should know is this little button just here is just like a very tiny fan at the back. And the only reason you should ever need to use it is if you're in the absolute peak of summer and it's boiling hot. If you struggle to get this gas to get the fridge cold, just switch the fan switch on there. It should just keep, create a little bit more air in the back and allow it to cool down. So that is the oven, grill and fridge. You've got the 2-burner hob over here. So you've got an electric ignition on it, automatic as well. So push in and around and that will light up either one. The sink, you have got a nice little cover for the sink here if you wanted to use it. If you weren't using the sink, a nice cover on that, gives you a little bit more space as well, I think. That's what that's for there. Absolutely stacks and stacks of paperwork for the vehicle in this brown box here. That will probably be in a wardrobe or a cupboard by the time of collection. The main wardrobe itself, you have got the motorhome Wi-Fi up there as well, so if you wanted to use that and get into that, there's probably paperwork for it in there, but there is also the sort of username and password and things on that. This locker as well, you've got the trip switches for the vehicles, so if you had the electric hookup plugged in and nothing was working, have a little look in here and make sure these are upright. But like I said, that's your main trip switches. The only other thing really to show you is the bathroom. The sink in the bathroom is just exactly the same as the one in the kitchen, so I don't need to show you that. Shower, again, it's just a standard mixer tap, hot or cold. So really the only thing I need to show you is the toilet. So these are really simple to use, these bench seat toilets. Literally all you have to do is, you've got a blue button just here, which when you press it should pump around your flush fluid. And when you want to drain it out into the cassette, pull this towards you and that opens and closes the flap. So also the other thing, I mean, we would have done it as part of the habitation check, but the other thing, like I said on the outside where I was saying about lubricating that rubber seal, if you don't lubricate the rubber seal every now and again, that handle there will get really, really stiff. And when they get stiff, when you eventually manage to crack it open, it will break the cassette. They're just so easy to break. If you don't lubricate those seals up, they you know, I can guarantee you basically they'll break. So it's always a good idea to do that. A can of silicone lubricant is something that I would recommend to everyone that has a motorhome, because, you know, I mean, really, there's something in every single place of a van that could do with silicone lubricant. It's just really, really helpful for keeping everything from squeaking and sort of breaking off. And obviously remember that, you know, motorhomes are driven at sort of 70 mile an hour or 60 miles an hour on the motorway, and everything moves around and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So keeping it all lubricated is really helpful. Same for the door locks and things as well. You can actually lubricate the door locks and things, so it's really helpful to do that. So anyway, so I think I've pretty well shown you everything I can. I don't think there's anything else to show you, but if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going through again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.